you're potentially talking about topping the group. Minimum, they have to get out of it, especially if there's third-place teams going through. We want to welcome in Kenta Hagiwara, by the way. He's co-host of the Asian Football Show, an expert of Japanese football, to give us a little bit more insight into this. Kenta, welcome to Morning Footy.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Kenta, so talk to me about Japan and the expectations from this team. The round of 16 has been a finish line oftentimes for Japan. Can they finally get over this curse of the round of 16?
Yeah, that's obviously the hope, right? They've been to the round of 16 four times before this, including the first time in 2002 when they hosted the World Cup, and they've never been able to kind of move on past that. You look at the last two World Cups in 2018, you were up 2-0 against Belgium, and in the span of 20 minutes, you kind of concede 3 goals. And against Croatia, you're tied 1-1. You're up for a bit at halftime, and you're just unable to win. And you take it to pens and lose on pens. And there's just a lack of experience for some of the younger players there in that penalty shootout, and that it costs the team. But I would imagine this time around, the expectation isn't just making it out of the group stage. You look at 2022 and the outlook then, it was a group with Germany, it was a group with Spain, and the outlook was a little less of, can we win a knockout stage match? It was more of, can we get out of this group? They win against both European sides, and they make it out of the group stage as the winners of that group, and they just struggled against Croatia at times in that match. Again, in Group F, I think the outlook is a little higher, especially with the recent results. You go back to the October window in 2025, they beat Brazil after going down 2-0 at home and won 3-2. And then, of course, the Wembley result yesterday when they win 1-0 against England, a team that hardly ever loses and also hardly ever gets shut out at home in Wembley. So I think the outlook is very good, but obviously we'll see how the group stage ends up playing out.
Kenta, it's really good to have you on and just be talking about a team that I know that we're big fans of with the Japanese national team. So with this win, Japan becomes the first Asian team to beat England at Wembley. But you guys also have an amazing track record against European teams. I mean, you're unbeaten, I think, maybe in your last 8, 9, you could probably even say 10 matches against European opposition. So when you look at this Japanese national team going into the World Cup, for our viewers and, for all of us, what would you say are the biggest strengths of this Japanese side?
It's the strength is kind of it's what the identity of Japanese football as a whole. It's tactical intelligence. It's the high pressing, the quick transitional play. But also, we saw in yesterday's game, the mid block between Kaishu Sano and Daichi Kamada was incredibly effective. Japan played compact defensively, and that mid-block, I thought, played incredibly well. It was aggressive. It caused all sorts of problems for England, who played with, I guess, 2 dueling 10s instead of having a real 9 in there because of Harry Kane's late injury and knock that he suffered before the match. I think a big presence in the box with the number 9 kind of changes how this match plays out, just because Japan aren't necessarily the biggest team in terms of size, and I think that can be a problem at times, especially on set pieces. But generally speaking, they're just such a disciplined team. I feel like that adjective gets thrown around with Japan time and time again in terms of what they do. It's just all that identity that has been part of the Japan way of playing from a coaching standpoint, in terms of how the game is coached at the club level and the national team level and the youth level across the board, and also how the players play. And it's that identity that really helps bring consistent performances against teams that are below them in FIFA rankings, but also the top European teams that they've been able to hold their own against.
Kenta, we've been talking about this round of 16 benchmark, right? And the irony now is that if Japan wins that knockout stage game, the first one, it's only to get to the round of 16. So there's an extra layer here. When you consider all of this pressure on Japan to deliver, how do you think this team deals with that pressure?
Well, I think they deal with it well. You look at even just yesterday's match against England. I think the expectation was that you get a result. You put your best team, best 11 that possible, barring the injuries, against an England side that had a lot of players kind of withdrawing, going back to their club for one reason or another, also just suffering injuries, obviously with Harry Kane that we previously mentioned. So the expectation was to be able to put up a fight, and they did. So it's ultimately, you know, I don't think they've suffered from pressure at the tournaments. At times it's been difficult. You look at the Asian Cup in 2023, they suffered against Iran and against Iraq. And so hopefully, right, come this time in the knockout stage, they're able to kind of get that one win, and hopefully that one win, the first win in the knockout stage of a World Cup, can get that curse out of the way. I know it's not the round of 16, but can help propel them into a deep run.
It's amazing when you look at the profile of some of the Japanese players. It just seems, Nico, that they're just raising the bar, right? You have a player in Daichi Kamada who's a European champion, won the Europa League, and FA Cup champion. Players playing in, you know, the Premier League. Players playing in Europe's top 5 leagues. So, Kenta, when you look at this group overall, are we seeing a potential golden generation in Japanese football?
I think so, absolutely. And, you know, the early 2000s, the JFA, the federation, came out with this 50-year plan. And they spoke about kind of the significance of getting players to Europe and developing talent over there. So you're seeing a lot of young Japanese players make the move over to Europe, and it's been effective, right? You're seeing, obviously, the names that are on the board here, but there's so many players in the Premier League and just in general the European top 5 leagues that you wouldn't have necessarily had the same quantity maybe 10 years ago in the previous generation of Keisuke Honda and Shinji Kagawa and Shinji Okazaki. The depth is the difference here, because now we're seeing some of these players be hurt. Like Taki Kubo wasn't available this window, and you still have other players that are playing high level European football be able to step up in the place and deliver. So it's definitely a great sign.
Kenta, let's talk about belief, because I can't help but compare the Japanese situation to the U.S. situation. Japan is a team that, to me, I'm convinced can punch above their weight. Whereas I see the U.S., and there haven't been results that have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight. How come there is so much belief in Japan to have the best World Cup result that they've ever had?
Well, partly it has to be what they did in 2022. It's a different subject if they weren't able to beat Germany and they weren't able to beat Spain. But the results that they got there, it's easy to look at those and say, well, why not do it again? And the run of form against, again, very recently here, the aforementioned result against Brazil in October was a really important one. You go down to, and you hadn't beaten Brazil before, and to be able to storm back and win 3 at home was a really important win. And then you combine that with the Wembley result when you're not on home soil, which obviously the World Cup won't be in Japan. So you're playing in neutral sites. It's important to be able to win, not just at home. And I think that those 2 results are just indicative of the fact that this Japanese national team can get results against teams that are maybe above them in terms of quality of individual talent because of how disciplined they are as a team and how well coached they are.
Samurai Blues World Cup journey kicks off June 14th against the Netherlands in Dallas, and it's bound to be a fun one. Kenta, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
That's Japanese football expert Kenta Hagiwara, co-host of the Asian Football Show. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more Morning Footy.